Hey everyone, today I wanted to do a little bit of a different type of video. For the most part, I've talked a lot about MS symptoms and how I've dealt with them and sort of the chaos that they've caused in my life. But today I wanted to do a little bit of a different spin, and I wanted to talk about the first part of probably many parts of what it's like being a mother with MS. And the first part I want to touch on is before all of that happens, you have to actually go through a pregnancy, obviously. And I wanted to talk about just how difficult that was for me and maybe bring awareness to that issue. Because when I was researching about being pregnant with MS, I read a lot of positive things that, you're going to possibly go into remission and your symptoms could get better, and this is what I was hoping for. But there was that 10 to 15% that actually would go into a relapse or would get worse, and that was what it was for me. Not only did I actually go into a relapse and have to have steroids while I was pregnant, but I was never really warned just how brutal rebound insomnia could be. And insomnia is something that I've struggled with for a long time since diagnosis with MS. Probably a couple years after I was diagnosed is when I really started to notice it. Before that, I was a really good sleeper, so it was a new symptom for me and one that was really causing havoc in my life and a lot of chaos. And if you have MS and you've gone through a night without sleeping, you know how detrimental it can be to your symptoms. Basically, whatever symptoms you have, for those of you that don't know, whatever symptoms you have are exacerbated by like 5,000% when you don't sleep. And so for me, it came down to a decision before I was pregnant of either I don't sleep and I don't function, or I sleep, but I sleep with taking a pill that I don't necessarily want to have to take. And I just chose that I needed the pill because I needed to be able to have a life. Without the pill, I would become paralyzed and my pain would become such that I couldn't even handle it. And so it really was a no-brainer for me. But I wasn't really warned just how slowly you need to wean off of that medication. And yes, I should have done my own research, but I was thinking of so many other things at that moment. I was excited that my husband and I finally got to the point where we agreed that having a child would be a good thing for us. And so we just sort of went for it, and we didn't have an issue getting pregnant. We were able to do that right away. And as soon as I found out I was pregnant, I stopped the medication that I was on. I stopped the sleep medication, and that first night I did not sleep 1 minute. And I just thought, okay, it's because of the first night, maybe I'm overexcited, maybe, I don't know, I just thought that it was just a coincidence. And then it just got totally out of control. So I, to cut to the chase, went 168 hours without 1 single second of sleep. So that's 7 entire nights of not 1 second of sleep. And when I started researching what rebound insomnia was, I was reading things that, I did not want to hear or read. And my mom was learning things that she didn't even tell me about how sometimes it never really gets better and that you don't really sleep again. And so I was just really stressed about that. My symptoms got to the point where I didn't even know where I was in space. I didn't know where my body was in space. I didn't know where my mind was in space. I couldn't concentrate on anything. I was highly irritable. I was nauseous. My pain was like, I don't even want to go there because I don't even have any words to describe that pain other than the most torturous thing I've ever had to experience my entire life. Not just for those 7 days, but throughout my entire pregnancy, but those were the worst 7 days. After, and I would go back to the doctor and say, look, like I wasn't warned to come off of this. Is there anything that I can go on to sort of get me over this hump? And they're like, nope, there's no drug you can go on when you're pregnant for insomnia. So basically think of yourself being in some like great space. And I'm like, this is way beyond being in a great space or thinking, of other people that have it worse than me. Like, this is rebound insomnia at its max, and I'm sorry, but melatonin isn't going to help me here. So I ended up having to just deal with those 7 nights, and even after the 7th night, on the 8th night, I slept maybe 45 minutes, and then it was an hour, and then an hour and a half, but I never got over 4 hours of sleep my entire pregnancy. And at 35 weeks, I remember going to my OB and saying, look, like, I need this baby out of me. Like, I need to get back on medication. I don't care what I have to do. Just, like, put me into labor. Like, just get this baby out of me. I was going absolutely nuts. And he said the earliest we could do was 38 and a half weeks. And we signed up for that. I was signed up to be induced. I didn't even care. It was on New Year's Day. It had to be with another OB, and I was just willing to do anything I could to not be pregnant anymore. And the ironic part is that day that I was induced, I actually went into I went into labor naturally when I got to the hospital. And my whole entire plan was to not have to take pain medication to get through the labor. And I think that just kind of came from a space of being through so much pain for so many years that it just built the resilience to deal with it. And I knew that if I had been through that amount of pain on a daily basis, that I could do it naturally. And I knew that it was going to be painful. I definitely didn't know how painful it was going to be, but I wanted to do it because I knew that pain was going to come to an end. And if I could deal with pain that didn't come to an end, I felt like this was the best for me. I also didn't want to have to take an epidural that would potentially take on more of my body than intended, which I was told could possibly happen, rare, but could possibly happen. And I always kind of tended to be that person where the rare things would happen. And so that's what I did. We did 18 hours natural labor, and you know, the second that the cutest little adorable thing I've ever laid eyes on, the moment that they placed him on my chest, all of the suffering, all of the pain, all of the sleepless nights, all of the discomfort, like everything in that moment was worth it. And when Landon was born, it was just the best thing in the world for us. But after all of the moment of just being in such awe of this child that we created, we were back down to reality and had to face the facts of being a mother with MS, being a mother with a chronic illness. And when you have a chronic illness, unfortunately, all that suffering doesn't really mean all that much once you have the child here, and now he's yours to look after, and you have to navigate through motherhood and through parenthood with, you know, the people, your husband and your parents and everybody around you supporting you. And I'm gonna cut this video off here because I didn't want to go on too long for each video, but this is just part 1. So tune in for my next video when I continue to talk about what it was like immediately after Landon was born, and continue to discuss my journey about what it's like being a mother with MS. See you at the next video. Bye guys.